Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're diving into a field that blends creativity with technical expertise. Textile pattern making machine operator. If you think it's just about pushing buttons on a factory line, well, you're in for a surprise.
What's fascinating about this is it's so much more than that. It requires a real depth of knowledge about textiles, understanding their properties and how they behave with different machines.
So it's not just about having an artistic vision. There's a serious technical side to it. Like what? Give me an example.
Well, if you look at this RoleCatcher guide, for instance, it points out that operators often have to choose the right materials for the design, right? Which sounds simple enough. But you need a keen eye to be matching those colors and textures, weights, especially when you're dealing with really intricate patterns. You get one thing wrong, and it can throw the entire production process off.
Okay, so there's definitely more to it than meets the eye. The guide also talks about something called a jacquard loom, which I have to admit I'd never heard of before. What is that, and how does it play into what these operators do daily?
Imagine, well, it's like a giant, really intricate piano. That's essentially what a jacquard loom is. But instead of keys, each one controls a specific thread or needle, allowing for these incredibly detailed, complex patterns to be woven into the fabric.
Wow.
So an operator needs to know how to not only use this complex machine, but how to troubleshoot it when things go wrong, because they inevitably do.
So you need that mix of artistic vision, being able to see the pattern, but also that technical problem solving to make it happen.
You've got it. And don't forget the math skills. Those are crucial in this line of work.
Math skills. Now, come on, we're not talking about like rocket science here, are we?
You might be surprised. I mean, think about it. You need precise measurements when you're scaling those designs up or down, right? Understanding ratios, making sure those patterns translate from the initial design to the final product without any hiccups. You're basically a textile engineer.
Okay, so maybe a little bit of rocket science then. And speaking of engineering, the guide also mentions that textile pattern making machine operators are often working directly with textile designers and manufacturers. Sounds like a lot of collaboration.
Collaboration is key. Operators need to be able to understand the designer's vision, turn that into a workable pattern, and then make sure the final product meets everyone's expectations.
Okay, so you've got to be a creative thinker, a tech whiz, and a team player. That's quite a combination. But what about the work environment? Is it all factories all the time, or is there more to it than that?
One of the most interesting things I found in the RoleCatcher guide was that it emphasizes how many work environments a textile pattern making machine operator might find themselves in. You've got your factories, sure, but also design studios, small businesses, even freelance opportunities.
Now, that's where the pros and cons section gets really interesting, because it's all about figuring out, does this job, with its realities, match up with what I'm looking for with my priorities? So let's dive into these pros and cons. One that jumps out immediately is high job security. What makes this particular field so stable?
It boils down to supply and demand. As technology advances, automation takes over more of those routine tasks. The demand for skilled professionals who can manage those complex machines, adapt to the new technologies, well, that demand remains high. Not everyone can do what a textile pattern-making machine operator does, and that's a good thing for job security.
It makes sense. It's not just button pushing. It's having that specialized knowledge that's becoming more and more valuable. But then the guide mentions good potential for advancement, but also later points out limited job growth. Help me square that circle. How do those two things go together?
I think it's about perspective, right? Advancement doesn't always equal climbing that traditional corporate ladder. So that limited job growth might refer to, say, moving up within one company. But the potential for advancement, that might come from specializing within the field, taking on more responsibility, maybe going freelance, as we talked about.
So maybe that limited job growth isn't a deal breaker if you're a bit entrepreneurial or you like the idea of being your own boss, having that flexibility.
Exactly. And remember, the guide even pointed out starting your own business as a possibility. That's a whole other avenue for growth and advancement.
There's that entrepreneurial spirit again. It seems like the textile industry really rewards those who are willing to forge their own path. But let's say someone's just starting out. What specific skills are employers looking for in a textile pattern-making machine operator?
Well, the guide lists several, but one that really stood out to me, and it might surprise some people, is color theory. And I don't just mean knowing your basic colors.
I was just going to say that's kindergarten stuff.
Exactly. But in this field, it's about understanding how colors interact, how to create visual harmony or even contrast, even how different cultures perceive color, which could influence a design. It's next level stuff that can make all the difference.
So we're not just talking about someone who can pick out a color swatch, but someone who really gets the nuances, the art, and even the cultural impact of color. That's pretty cool. And, it's funny. It makes me think about RoleCatcher's platform itself. They make a big deal about their AI-powered CV and resume builder. What do you make of that?
I think it's a sign of the times, Even in a field as hands-on as this, technology is a big deal. That AI focus tells me employers are probably using this kind of tech to sort through applications. So having the right keywords, the right formatting, it can really make or break your chances.
So it's not even enough to just have the skills anymore. You've got to know how to talk to the AI, make it understand your value. It seems like RoleCatcher's trying to help with that.
Yeah, it levels the playing field, gives everyone a shot, even if they're not, like, master resume writers.
Right, right. Okay, so we've covered the technical stuff, the importance of collaboration, this whole color theory thing, even how to deal with AI in the job hunt. But what I'm really drawn to is the specialisms section of the guide. This is where it gets exciting for anyone who wants to, really find their niche.
Because, let's be honest, textile pattern making machine operator. It's a bit of a mouthful, isn't it?
It doesn't exactly roll off the tongue. But specializing, becoming the person for a certain type of pattern making that's got a ring to it, you're like the superhero of that niche.
I like that. And this guide, it lists out a bunch of these specialisms. Each one has its own appeal.
The one that jumped out at me, honestly, was education and training. Because at first, it seems kind of counterintuitive, right? Like, wait, I thought we were talking about running these machines, not teaching people about them.
And that's what's so cool about it. It suggests this whole path that goes beyond just the factory floor. Imagine you're the expert, right? You train the next generation of textile pattern makers. Maybe you consult with companies, help them make their processes better. You're shaping the future of the field.
You're on the cutting edge, seeing the latest tech, the newest trends, and then you get to pass that knowledge on. That's its own form of creativity, isn't it?
100%. Plus, think about the demand. As this industry changes, they're going to need people who can teach those new tricks. So, job security, probably pretty good.
And it tackles that whole limited job growth thing head on. You found this side door, this way to advance your career while also sharing your passion. Now, let's say someone's listening to this and they're like, textile pattern making machine operator, that's me. Maybe even this education angle. What are the big things they should take away from all of this? It really does feel like one of those careers that checks so many boxes. You've got the creative side, the technical skills, the problem solving, even the chance to teach, to be a mentor.
Right. And if I had to boil it all down to like a few key takeaways, I'd say, first off, don't let that machine, part of the job title, scare you off.
It's not about being a machine.
Exactly. It's about knowing how to use these amazing tools to make your ideas a reality.
You're the one orchestrating it all, the threads, the tech. Okay, so embrace the art and the technology. Got it. What else?
Then think about the impact you want to make. Are you someone who thrives on that fast-paced production? Or do you see yourself in that mentor role, guiding the next generation, figuring out what really calls to you, those specialisms? That's key.
And don't underestimate those soft skills, right?
Right.
I mean, we keep coming back to communication, collaboration. What about things like, I don't know, problem solving, attention to detail? That's got to be huge when you're working with such intricate stuff.
Essential. And those are skills that translate anywhere. But yeah, in this field, super valuable.
For sure. And if you're playing the long game here, this industry, always changing, new tech, new trends, you've got to be ready to learn, to adapt.
Lifelong learning, that's the key.
So there you have it. Embrace the blend of art and tech, find your niche, hone those soft skills, and never stop learning. It's good advice for anything in life, really. But as we wrap up this deep dive, here's a final thought to leave you with. We've been focused on the traditional side of textile work, right? But where else do patterns matter?
Oh, interesting.
Think about it. Interior design, the digital world, even video games rely on patterns. Could those be unexpected avenues for a skilled pattern maker? Someone who can bridge that gap between creativity and technology.
Absolutely. There's so much potential, so many different ways to apply these skills.
And that's what we love about these deep dives, uncovering those hidden paths. So if you're feeling that spark, don't be afraid to think outside the box. Explore those less obvious options. You might just find your dream job in a place you'd never expect. Until next time, happy exploring.